'Tis I, your old pal, King Chuck. I hope you're having a wonderful day. 55 degrees in Grand Rapids right now. It was colder than a witch's tit a few days ago. I just realized that my car's heater is on. I need to turn it off and enjoy the sunshine. And maybe I'll go out for a little bit when I get home. So I want to talk a little bit about... first of all, some good news. Focus, and this is proof, folks, that some of the biggest assholes of the past are starting to die off. Focus on the Family. Focus on the Family, far right-wing organization, founded by a guy. I keep forgetting his name, but anyway, James Dobson, there we go. So, Focus on the Family, far right-wing hate group. Southern Poverty Law Center called it a hate group. And yeah, I'm not surprised by that. So, anyway, so the story is they had a bookstore in Grand Rapids, not in Grand Rapids, but in Holland. They had a bookstore in Holland, and it was in business for 5 years, and now it's closed. And I'm going to tell you, I'm actually very happy it closed, because they are, so Focus on the Family, they're an anti-gay group. They're basically the type of people that says that God will accept you only if you're white and straight and, MAGA, basically. Now, many years ago, I was flipping through channels, and so we have this station here in town, here in West Michigan, called WLLA Channel 64. And Channel 64 is the main channel is they're what you call a Christian independent station. They're not with TBN or any of those guys. They air their own programming, and they air a lot of infomercials and a lot of programs from they air a couple of westerns here and there. The sub-channels are like Me TV and Me TV Tunes and Heroes and Icons. They used to have a channel called Retro TV. They had Retro TV for many years, but they dropped them because they claimed it was due to inappropriate content. I wonder what was the straw that broke their little camel's back. But anyway, so they aired a Focus on the Family cartoon that ended with two young boys sleeping in like a twin bed with each other. And I'm like, oh my God, that is one of the most gayest, not just gay, but also, what's the right word? Pedophilia. And I was like, what is it with these people? I don't get it. So, anyway, folks, my good friend and homeboy out of Howard City, Darren Gibson, he is the head of, he used to have a show called Southpaws on terrestrial radio, and then he moved to, he moved over to the internet and all that. And so the story was, he had a post on social media on Facebook that stated how happy he was that the Focus on the Family bookstore is closing. And now he says that now he is hoping that the American Decency Association in Fremont will be next. And I'm like, what has the ADA done pretty much since Howard Stern moved to satellite radio? And I got an answer. Not much. That was their main intent, to get Howard Stern off terrestrial radio, and they got their wish. And of course, they stopped moderating the show when 94.5 dropped the show, and he was moved to 1340. And 1340 was dicking around with the show, and I told you the story a million times, of course. But yeah, Bill Johnson was basically the devil's advocate. This asshole, he basically built his life to make everyone's life a living hell. And what he did, so this is what he did. He decided, so he started this organization of the American, it was called Citizens Against Pornography. Back in the early 80s, he claimed that pornography was destroying his life, and he begged stores and video stores to stop selling porn. And then he became a part of the American Family Association for a while, and then he went on his own, and he would tell people that Donald Wildman was his hero, but he had to secede from the American Family Association because basically that they got into politics, and he was into just getting rid of Howard Stern. Yeah, getting rid of Howard Stern, forcing supermarkets to put blinders over Cosmo magazine, and getting rid of Desperate Housewives. He was against that show because it was about adultery, and it's like, dude, we're human beings. If you don't like something on TV, there's the remote. Change the fucking channel. Oh, we don't like Howard Stern because he's hurting our children. Yeah, you want to know who hurts children even worse? Priests and preachers who take money, who molest children, and so on. I mean, I went to a church in northern Michigan that did that years ago. They took, their youth pastor started his own church, and he took $500,000 and was caught, and he committed suicide. That's what it is, folks. It's like some of the people, it's like in the minds of the religious right, good is bad and bad is good. You understand? That's what it boils down to. And my joke here is that all these people in the 70s, 80s, and 90s who wanted to get rid of pornography, who wanted to get rid of Howard Stern, who wanted to get rid of Jerry Springer, they're now in their 70s, 80s, and 90s and dead. Of course, the aforementioned Jerry Springer, he's dead now. Of course, the show that spun off of his show, which is Steve Wilkos, recently just announced that show's being canceled after 19 seasons. And Wilkos had been on TV for 32 years. So, I mean, he says he's pretty much retired these days, but who knows? Anyway, Wilkos, of course, was the bald-head security guard on Springer, and he would yell and scream at people and throw chairs, and it's like that show never failed to him. I mean, even though in later years, there were some shows that were kind of borderline boring, and were very predictable, but it ran its course. Anyway, so let's get back to what we were talking about here. The point is, folks, is that look at the Parents Television Council. They got their wish come true when the FCC raised indecency fines, all because of the Janet Jackson incident. But guess what? All the good shows that contain nudity and profanity and violence, they all moved to streaming. And it's like now regular TV is flat out boring, with very little violence, very little profanity, definitely no nudity. It's like the new show called Marshalls. Marshalls, of course, is the spin-off of Yellowstone. So the story with that, I've watched a couple of episodes so far. So Yellowstone was basically a cowboy soap opera. And of course, the big star on that show was Kevin Costner. Kevin played an old rancher who, who tried his damnedest to keep his farm going, his ranch going, basically. And what happened was, of course, he got his son. He adopted a kid, and the kid was Mr. Intelligence, and he was the lawyer of the family, and there was another member of the family who was Casey, that's the guy from Marshall's, and of course the daughter Beth, who is basically an old drunk bitch. And anyway, so the rest of the story is that the actual Yellowstone show went off the air. It had its final episode, and then what happens is so now it's like the two surviving kids on the show, Beth and Casey is the son, now have they're going to have their own shows. And in Casey's case, he's now a U.S. Marshal, and now he's going out and killing people. And basically, the show, it's like they had to tone it down for network TV. And some people are already saying, the show kind of sucks because of that. It lacks the edge of the original Yellowstone. But there's still some stuff regarding the show that still makes it pop. Like this, one of the storylines was that the adoptive brother, who turned out to be a royal asshole, he was murdered by the two other kids. And because of the, and the reason why was because he was accused of killing John Dutton, that was Costner's character on the show. But here's the story. It's not the edgy stuff that you'd see on Yellowstone. And it's because, and they're doing this, I think, in my honest opinion, to help CBS a little bit. But that's what happens, folks. But here's the thing about the Parents Television Council, by the way. They recently filed for bankruptcy. Gee, I wonder why. Because there's nothing edgy on TV anymore. On regular TV. Because of them. And it's like now we got to pay for good TV. Unless, of course, you can try out this service that I've been using for years called OmniMax. I've been using OmniMax for years. They have all the streaming big cable channels. They have they also have a really cool service where you can watch just about everything from Netflix and Paramount Plus and Hulu, etc. I highly recommend it. Anyway. So let's get back to CBS for a second. Did you see this, folks? CBS, people are definitely seeing BS. So CBS News used to have integrity. They had Walter Cronkite. They had Dan Rather. And, of course, Dan left CBS because of a scandal. He was doing a story about George W. Bush's military record, and it was forged documents. So, yeah, it was all forged documents and nothing verifiable, so he was pressured to leave, which he did. And, when I was a kid, Rather did CBS Evening News. It was Cronkite before that. NBC had Tom Brokaw on the NBC Nightly News, and World News Tonight on ABC with Peter Jennings. And it's like, since then, it's like, it's musical chairs, except for NBC. Now, NBC did have a scandal with Brian Williams some years back. Williams claimed that he was on an airplane in Iraq that was shot down. It wasn't. It was the other plane. He basically tried to make himself look like the hero. He wasn't. So, he and NBC ended up parting ways, and NBC hired Lester Holt to do the 6:30 newscast. Holt announced that he was leaving to go to do Dateline full time. And anyway, rest of the story was that anyway, we can go on and on and on. Nowadays, ABC has David Muir. He's been doing world news now for many years. I think he's number one, if I'm not mistaken. Number two might be Nightly News. And now it's hosted by Tom Yamas. And now we got number three. So the story was before the Paramount, CBS and Skydance merger. So the story was CBS decided decided that Nora O'Donnell was not the good fit for the evening news. CBS Evening News has not had very good ratings for many years. They've always been distant to ABC and NBC since the 80s. So what happened? What happened was, when Nora O'Donnell left the evening news, the newscast had roughly a little bit over 5 million viewers. Okay. NBC and ABC had about 7 or 8 million on a good night. So what happened was next time. So anyway, then they retooled the evening news to make it look like a 6 o'clock newscast. They had John Dickerson. John's mother was Nancy Dickerson. She was a longtime correspondent for CBS News. And, it's funny because Cracked Magazine used to do a parody of Nancy Dickerson named Nanny Dickering. Remember that? And then there was Maurice Dubois. And of course, the story was, so anyway, when the merger happened, the two announced, okay, we're quitting. And of course, John Dickerson notoriously said good night and good luck to honor the great Edward R. Murrow, who set the high standards for CBS's journalism. So what happened was, so then they decided, okay, we're going to move Tony DeCopo from the morning show to nights because he's a bit of a Trump ass kisser. And that's exactly what's happened. And of course, as mentioned, they put in a editor-in-chief and Trump czar, Barry Weiss. And you know what, folks? CBS, it's been announced that since Tony took over the 6:30 newscast, CBS is now, get this, the CBS Evening News is now fewer than 4 million viewers. That's right, folks. It's an embarrassment. Their experiment is not working out. It's like CBS for years tried to do their best to keep, viewers. And yes, it's like they had to, it's like there were times where it's like, what the fuck were they doing? Now, CBS still had other newscasts that they were proud of, like 60 Minutes. And of course, Sunday Morning, which Jane Pauley, of course, hosts that. Although Jane's been out for a few weeks, I'm wondering, she might be on vacation, who knows? Maybe she's trying to look for another job, but then again, she's in her 70s, maybe. Who knows? But CBS's integrity has died tremendously since Barry Weiss took over. And the tragic truth is that Skydance, of course, they're in the process of buying Warner Brothers. And people are like, now, and it's like, some people are like, you know, well, the question is, will this be a company too big to fail, or will there be, will they end up being bankrupt? It's like BP. BP had that giant oil spill in 2010, and I'll be honest with you, I have not bought a drop of BP gas for my car ever since then. I avoid BP like the plague. And we do have BP stations here in Grand Rapids. There's one at 28th and Breton. There's another one that's on Division Avenue just before 54th Street. And it's a really tiny station too. But anyway, and I know there's others. The reality is with BP is they're an evil company for what they did. But that disaster back in 2010 with the oil rig exploding, killing countless, maybe millions of animals for all we know. And the tragic, and now you look at what's going on. I just passed 2 gas stations, folks, that were, shopped at $3.99 a gallon. And now they're at $3.97. Whoop-de-doo, 2 cents down. And Trump, he's like, the windmills, they're killing the eagles, they're killing our birds. My God, what are you talking about, you senile old cuck? The point is, folks, is Trump lied to us. He got us into a war to get away from the Epstein files. Jeffrey Epstein got a lot of his wealth from Israel in the 80s. Israel, and here's something to think about. Many of our shopping malls here in Michigan are funded by the Israeli government. The malls are owned by Namdar and Kohan and another company called Summit Properties. There we go. They're all funded by the Israelis. And all these malls are shitholes, I should add. I mean, thankfully, we here in Grand Rapids have Woodland Mall, which is a beautiful mall. They're owned by a company called the Pennsylvania Real Estate Investment Trust, PREIT. And, every time they lose a store in that mall, they gain a new one. They're a great mall. I love them. And the story, folks, is, Israel, all these people are together to start this stupid war just so we don't have to think about Epstein. And I got news for you, folks. Slowly but surely, first of all, I'm happy that they subpoenaed Pam Bondi. Pam is a total cunt and a half for for the fact that, she's telling everyone, Dow's over 50,000. No, it's not anymore. Not anymore. We're heading towards doom because of Trump. And the fact of the matter is, the good news is the Supreme Court kicked his ass and told him that the tariffs were hurting everybody. And it was a tax put on the American people. No, it was not to hurt other countries. It was, it's like, it was not to help American workers. It was to fuck Americans. Not just fuck over Americans, but fuck over the world. And now with this this war in Iran for no reason, guess what? It's, we're the bad guys now. We and Israel are the bad guys. And what's even more pathetic is that now it's like, Brendan Carr from the FCC and Donald Trump, they're telling everyone, all the media companies, if you talk smack about the war, you're going to have your license taken away. You're going to be charged with treason. No, folks, this is America. I can bash the president if I want to, and bash people who love Donald Trump. This is bullshit, folks. I mean, there's that part of me that says, I love my country, but I fucking hate my government. And all I can say, folks, is, the shit will hit the fan when CNN is taken over by these assholes. Yeah, CNN, of course, is part of Warner Brothers, as we all know. And, I mean, if I was Ted Turner, by the way, he's now struggling with dementia. And if he was of sound mind, he would be so angry at what they did to his old network. And, all I can say is, and of course, Ted spent much of his life promoting environmental matters too. And I would imagine that they would say stuff like, coal is good and oil is good. Yeah. Yeah, man, my God. And to think that, that these right-wing assholes will soon own Captain Planet. Yeah. So, anyway. So all I can say is people are speaking out against CBS. They're turning to another news source. They're turning to people who, and I understand ABC and NBC, they're traditional media. They're not perfect in their storytelling. But thankfully there's the internet and, this show and Midas Touch and so many others. God bless them. We need good, sound voices who will tell the truth, because we need the truth to be told. And all I can say is fuck everybody who tries to censor people like me and others, and because, well, we don't share the same opinion. Once again, folks, bluest tsunami possible this fall. Tell America, take America back. Good day, good luck. I'll talk to you later, folks.